Sleeping with a Frenemy. I am obsessed with this book cover. I think it's my favorite out of all of them. And the cover for book one actually made me cry at work and like traumatize like 20 second graders. So to say that this one is my favorite is something. But interestingly enough, with Sleeping with a Frenemy, we kind of take a little bit of a step back from that social justice lens of the gentrification happening in Humboldt Park. And we really focus even more on the character growth. It features the heroine from book one, the youngest of her older brothers, Leo, and her best friend, Sophie. And we find out that they have had this secret on and off relationship for many, many, many years. And it kind of all came to a head at the end of book one when Sophie finds out that Camila has lied to her about getting into a college that they were supposed to attend in, and Sophie was going to go with her, and they were going to live in France, and Camila was going to become a chef, and they were just going to live the best life. And she finds out that Camila lied to her about getting in, and that kind of damages their friendship, and it leaves Leo in the middle, even though Camila has no idea that Leo's in the middle. And so it starts off about a year and like a little bit over a year and a half after that incident. And Sophie has gone and lived her dream that she wanted to live. She went to Paris, she lived there, she worked. Now she's coming back and she's ready to mend fences with Camila and the Vega family, with the exception of Leo. She has decided, she's done with that. It's not healthy, it's toxic, and it's holding her back, and she needs to move on. And meanwhile, Leo is dealing with the fact that he has lost, at the time, his firefighting career, because at the end of book two, he receives an injury that kind of means that he can't go back to firefighting. And so he's dealing with that. That has been the only thing he's wanted to be his entire life. And he's grappling with who is he now? And Sophie pretty much is kind of grappling with who she is now too. And so, of course, because I love the meddling grandparents, his grandpa, who is very much an older version of him, is trying to think of ways that, he can bring them together. This has been on his mind since the end of book two. But then her grandma comes into the picture, who is kind of like a little bit more of an extroverted her. And so, they both get together. And in this time, it's a little bit different because they actually tell Leo, like, we're going to help you figure out how to make her give you a chance and make it work this time. And he's like, okay, because, Leo loves the chaos, just like Sophie. And yeah, they're very much like my messiest characters, but in a really, really fun way that I enjoy. And they both have a lot of growing and a lot of changing to do, which is kind of why I tried to make that really the focus of this book and kind of take out some of those other external things, like with book one and two. There very much is an art to writing characters that are of different ethnic backgrounds. Especially because in the publishing industry, in media, we have existed for so long in a very, very white, cis, heteronormative space. So when when we talk about writing stories that featured people of different ethnic backgrounds and different orientations and marginalized identities, there is a way to go about doing this. And I don't want to say the right way, but the conscious way. So for me personally, I grew up majority in the Puerto Rican community, right? My mother is Puerto Rican, my father is Dominican. And so I have spent some limited time in the Dominican community just because I spent a limited amount of time with my dad. Uh, so I mostly know the Puerto Rican community, but that is the Puerto Rican community here in the diaspora in a majority white state, right? Like Wisconsin is not very brown, let's say. And so I always have to make a conscious effort to remember that we have the same culture, my characters and I, but we don't necessarily have the same experiences. I didn't grow up in where all of my neighbors were Puerto Rican, right? My grandparents, when they bought the house that my family still owns, that I live in, everybody was white. They actually signed petitions to try to get my family to leave. And so as I got, like, as I was born and I came into the picture, this was a Latino community, but it was mostly Mexican. The Puerto Rican community was a little bit more on the north side of our city. So even then, there's differences. For me, especially when writing dialogue, when writing, something that is going to really touch on that experience, I do my very best to do some research, even though it's my culture. I reach out to people who I know who lived in that community, readers who I have met, even other authors that I have met. Um, I, especially like with book 2, actually engage multiple sensitivity readers to make sure that with the LGBTQ community, with the plus size community, and to a point with the Latino community, that I was writing an accurate and responsible portrayal of a character.